we're back. We're done with the wrestling portion. Now we're looking at this scoop portion. So he does a lot of basically going to north-south. He likes to use a scoop pass, or at least threaten a scoop pass, to be able to just go straight to north-south, right? So common theme. So we'll just look through a couple of clips and then we'll, demo through them as the series goes. So we're here. I think this is his first match against Jay Groner. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. 10th Planet. Shout out Cannabis. So we'll be playing from here. So he manages to get to like basically a side-on position. He's managed to pummel his inside hand to the floor. So probably basically using an arm weave, he's circled around and he managed to get his head behind his partner's knee on this side. So his left hand was scooping that leg. It's no longer scooping the leg as his partner's basically taking a 2-on-1 grip on it. His right hand is fishing around the back to try to stack him, starting to get his right fingertips to the inside. And here he does a fake leg pummel. So he starts to pummel his legs back to a leg drag position. Saw Gordon do this against Victor Hugo in ADCC. And see here, he then reverses the position once his partner starts pushing with that outside leg on his head. So see here, like once he pummels his leg in, if his partner did nothing, he'd probably circle around to like a leg drag on the opposite side. But here his partner starts to push really hard with his left leg. And that's going to allow Elijah to basically just backstep. And what I found that he does especially good, right, is once he gets one hand through and scoops, his ear or his head stays perfectly in line with their belly button. So, and like between the legs, so it's hard for his partner to get his legs back to the inside. Okay, so we'll demo it in a sec, but that's basically a theme that we'll see for a lot of the passes that he does. So there's one pass. Okay, let's move on to the next pass. All right, so here we go again. Basically the exact same thing has happened again, right? He's got the shin post and he's gonna basically go straight into that position where he's hugging the leg with his left hand, he's ducked his head under the opposite leg and he's stapling the bottom shin. So pretty much exactly the same as the last clip that we saw. So look, he pushes the bottom shin down with his right hand, then he staples it with his right shin. At the same time, he's ducking his head under that leg and he takes a scoop grip on the leg, or he's trying to, and his partner is again attacking that same armbar position. From here, his partner's already pushing his head right, so he doesn't have time to pummel his usual leg drag leg in. That would be the left leg in this case. He just shoots his right hand through the gap there and does a back step, just extracting his head, right? And you'll see again, like he doesn't work too hard for the passes, I've noticed, when it's not, points play, and his partner basically, his opponent manages to get the toes back to the inside eventually in this clip. But that was just another example of how he likes to use the scoop pass to threaten circling around, and it forces his partner to push his head away, and then he just changes direction and dives straight back down to a north-south pass. So one thing that Elijah does very well is he'll just like push people till they're on their back without giving them a chance to engage on the legs, right? So they'll be sitting up trying to get grips on him and he'll just push, and be lifting the legs till they get on the back, and then he'll be controlling the legs all the time to stop his partner from sitting up again. Okay, yeah, just controlling the legs and circling around, forcing his partner to pummel his legs rather than using them to stand up, and then he'll be keeping his legs out the way, just being tight. So he looks to pin the bottom leg, and straight away he's going to dive his head into this gap behind his partner's knee and scoop that leg like this. Okay, so it's instant threat, right? I have a back step passing which forces his partner to bring this knee in tight. Okay, so once the knee's in tight, he starts to staple the legs with his shin like this. So he'll either go with the right leg and just staple, okay, and if he has time, he'll pummel his outside leg in, okay, and getting this elbow to the floor on the inside and basically keeping his head tight to the middle of his partner's stomach. So when his partner tries to push him and bring the knees inside the shoulders, it's very difficult because they don't have angle to do it, right? If he had his head like, let's say, off to the side a bit more, his partner would be able to get one of the knees inside the shoulder and then be using that as like a buffer to push him away. So let's turn a little bit. When he's in this position as well, a lot of the time one knee will be on the inside, or potentially they'll have an elbow on the bottom here, okay? So he hasn't fully passed, right? And if they manage to connect a knee and elbow, then that can be a problem, and they start pushing him away, and he can follow up with the scoop circling to the opposite side, but it's more of a problem than he needs. So what I noticed is he'll be sprawling, and every time they do a little bump with their elbow, he'll just lift the knee up, okay? So they're not able to connect their knee and elbow. So let's say he's holding on tight here, they do a bump and try and connect the knee and elbow here. As that happens, he's lifting the knee up, so it's just tough for them to get that through, and then eventually he'll sink both hands underneath, and once you have both shoulders under the knees, let's say from this position he lifts, gets the shoulder under. From this position it's very easy to win the pass and get the points. All right, so we're back. We're just going to look at another little example of basically exactly the same pass. So these are one of the few techniques that Elijah uses very well, and he combines it with his pummeling when he's in tight. So if we go back a little bit, so Elijah tends, if he has to enter into the legs, right, he'll enter into the legs. If he's struggling to get around his partner's legs, he'll enter between the legs, and he'll use like staples to try and get temporarily around the leg where he's kind of facing the opposite direction to his partner, even though he's in tight. So let's say, e.g. in this position, his partner's knees are pointing away for a second, right? And he manages to just about get around his legs just for a split second. Okay, so the knees are pointing away. He hasn't passed the guard because his partner's got hooks in and he's got frames in, but he's in a good position to basically start to force his partner to high leg over the top. And when he sees this happening, he predicts it and he ducks under with a scoop grip, and he basically hits exactly the same pass as before. But generally as a theme, right, he'll put his legs to the inside. If his partner's like disciplined with the leg position and keeps their knees in place, they'll just have to push him away, and he'll either load weight into the push to try to knee cut. He hits a couple of knee cuts, or they'll push him all the way away and then he'll just reset. And if there's any like misdirection in the angle, let's say the knee's not pointing directly at him, it's pointing to the side, he'll use that push to get around the legs and then start to threaten the side to side passing in order to get the partner high legging. So this is what we see here. He starts to get in tight on a leg smash. Partner pushes away in high legs, and straight away he's ready pinning the bottom leg. He scoops under and catches the hip with his left hand, and then he instantly looks to pummel his shins to the inside. Before he gets a chance to, his partner's already pushing his head away, right? So he just obviously can't really stop his head getting pushed away, but he just lets his partner's top leg fall away, and then he scoops with his right hand, that inside hand, scooping his partner's leg. So we'll do a little demo of that now. Come on, Charles. Elijah manages to basically get to a position where he pummels his legs past his partner's legs. So he does precise pummeling here, and then his partner does like a big high leg over, and he's already ready, grabbing the bottom shin and looking to scoop the hip. So from this position, if his partner gave him time, he'd probably go for a more controlled, like leg drag sort of position where he can take this hand free and pummel it to the inside of the hip. But his partner doesn't give him an opportunity to do that, and he just kicks his top leg into his face. They just, yeah, like this, exactly. So he wants to push him away to replace the bottom knee, and he almost replaces it, right? But Elijah's ready for it, and as he pushes him away, he just drops his hip and hand to the floor on this side, and then he manages to scoop the legs together. I don't believe he gets the pass points on this, but it's just another example of how he'd use that same sort of scoop passing to get around the legs and pass the guard, and he does it very well with minimal risk of getting actually entangled in any sort of leg exchanging. Next clip, this is not a pummel, but this is another strategy that I saw Elijah using quite often. Was basically he'd use an steamer lock if he feels like his partner's being pretty effective with the butterfly hook, or if he just wants to force his partner to kick him away, right? He'll use the steamer lock as an initial setup to basically make his partner kick him away, and then he can use that to start to circle around. So this is what we see. Partner kicks away, extends his legs, and it allows Elijah to initially jump around the legs, right? So he just gets to a position, any position essentially, where he's got some connection to them, some sort of pull, and he's around the knees to the outside. So he tries to go to pinning the bottom leg right here, as you see. So he circles around. He tries with his left hand here to pin that bottom leg, and he's unable to, right? The grip slips off, and his partner manages to get his knee inside. But Elijah keeps the pressure on, keeping his ear behind the knee and his opposite hand pulling. So his right hand there is pulling. He keeps trying to push that leg down with his left hand, right? But he finds that he's unable to initially, right? So he's pushing the leg down, unable to get it out the way. His partner manages to push him off for a split second here, but he comes back in essentially exactly the same position. Okay, so here's the pushing off. He's trying to stuff the leg away and he's struggling. Okay, once he gets the knee up to the shoulder, so this is an interesting transition, right? Instead of pushing the knee past him, he just pushes the shin onto his shoulder, right? And then he's going to grab, with the knee inside, he's going to grab his partner's lat, and he's going to circle back to that side. So he's basically sandwiching the knee in tight to the chest, and he's pulling his own chest on top of the knee whilst keeping his head in between the legs. Right, now with his right hand, he just keeps fishing till he can get his elbow to the floor on the opposite side. So see here, he's trying to push the leg away initially by lifting and sort of ripping it up like a tire flip, right? And he's unable to from a side angle. So he circles his legs more to a north-south position right here. And then from there, he's able to get his right elbow over his partner's elbow here. Once he scoops the hip, he's just going to do a right hip sprawl, right, to make it difficult for his partner to get his legs in. And then again, he's back to this position where he's just lifting the thigh up with one leg in, and he manages to pass. So the theme is basically he's going to be on one side trying to lift the leg up, And once he gets his hips like lined up with his partner's hips, so in a line, then he'll shoot his arm all the way deep through. So let's have a look at that. All right, so this is what you see on the camera, right? So Elijah's trying to push this leg out the way, and he's got his head driving in, and his partner's hips are off the floor. So you're gonna lift your hips off the floor. We're in this position, right? So Elijah's trying to stuff the toe away, but it keeps slipping, right? And he's unable to get this foot pushed out to bring his hand in front, right? And if the knee is too high, bringing the hand in front isn't really going to be effective, right? So he keeps trying to push this leg out the way. He gets to an angle from the side and he's trying to rip the leg away. At some point he gets pushed away, right? From this leg, he gets pushed away, and he comes back in and tries to like tire flip the leg out the way. So this would be the idea, to try and get to knee on belly. But his partner does a good job of keeping that leg in. So instead, he's just going to stuff the shin on the inside here, right? So he tries to lift the leg up and he manages to get this grip on the back of his partner's, basically just on his partner's lower back, right? So now he can start to sprawl, okay, and work his opposite hand to the inside. So here his goal is to get his arm all the way to the floor so that he can basically sprawl his hip down, okay, and then he can take his second hand out and again lift that knee and then drop his head down and secure the pass. But obviously when we're in this position, right, likelihood is that my partner's going to have their arm on the inside, so he's scoop gripping, right, and he's trying to flip that leg out the way, and the whole time he's keeping his head low and in between his partner's hips, so there's no chance of re-pummeling the legs. So he tries to flip the leg out the way, he's failing, he circles to north-south, and then from this, and his hand is holding the back, and from this position, he's able to circle his left elbow inside his partner's arm. And as soon as he feels this arm through, he's going to pull and sprawl, and now it's just a matter of time. Even though the partner might have a knee-elbow connection on this side, it's going to be very difficult, and when they try to actually push away, he's just going to lift and then bring his hand back in front. And because he's got a sprawl on this side, partner's shoulder is going to be pinned and his second hand is holding the hip and his ear right in the middle of the chest. There's no way for his partner to make any effective grips to try and push him away from him or over the top of him, and he's able to solidify the pass and get the points. All right, this is another example of basically exactly the same thing happening again. So you can see it's towards the end of the match. He's already 5 points up. He's just basically flexing at this stage. But, you know, nonetheless, he manages to get a pass off when he had no need to. So here, manages to get to north-south again. He's got his head between the legs. So a lot of nose in the balls. But, you know, you've got to do what you've got to do, basically, to win. And he did win, to be fair. It would have been a waste otherwise. So he's got his right hand here. He scoops. Right here, his right hand manages to scoop. His partner puts the knee in, right? He's also got the left hand in early this time, but generally his right hand will be scooping with the shin on the inside, right? So it pins his partner's shin tight to his stomach just with one arm, which is basically most of the time going to be worth it if you can control someone's like spinning their hips and their kick with their leg just with one arm. It's basically worth it, and it's going to pin them enough that he can get his second leg to his second hand inside. So we're here. He tries initially, doesn't get it. His right hand, you can't really see from this clip, but his right hand is holding around his partner's back and pulling himself in, and he's shooting his left arm all the way deep in, and once he does, he sprawls his hips on the opposite side of his partner's head, and then it's just a matter of time. Once he takes his right arm out, as long as he doesn't just lose balance, he's going to get the pass, and that's what we see again right at the end here. He would have got another pass, but the time ran out. Key. All right, so this next example is an example basically where Nicky Ryan actually stuffs the pass using a cell frame on his outside knee, right? So preventing Elijah from pinning his hips to the floor. So let's watch the clip. So Nicky trying to get a telephone armbar there. Elijah manages to escape the position and starts to pass left and right. So he feints one way and then he manages to pummel his outside leg free of Nicky's half guard leg. So he's very good at doing that, right? And here he gets to a position where he's basically past the guard, right? But Nicky has his frames in. So he's aware that Nicky's going to bring his legs back to the inside here. And as he does, he manages to shoot his left hand through that gap. So let's have another look. Circles around one way, jumps over to the opposite side. And as soon as Nicky kicks his leg free, Elijah shoots that left hand in and controls the hip, right? So once he controls the hip, he's going to try to dive his head down as quickly as possible. And Nicky, in this case, he's almost lost the position, right? You can see, but he manages to do a self frame on his outside knee to be able to put his left foot there on Dorsey's hip, right? So here, Dorsey's trying to go for exactly the same pass as before. He's trying to get a scoop with his right hand around Nicky's right knee and hold his back, but Nicky's slowing that down by bringing his elbow to the inside. And at the same time, his far hand is posting on his own thigh to stop Elijah from fully twisting into the opposite side and sprawling. So I see Elijah's basically not able to flatten Nicky out. Nicky's like got a curved posture here because of the self frame and because of the opposite side frame on the hip. So I see here Nicky makes a bit of space, gets his foot on the hip and uses the self frame basically to slow it down and not allow Elijah to basically continuously pressure like straight down in that direction. And it basically, once you can get a step on the hips, you can kind of move your hips away from your partners and then manage to get your knee back to the inside. And that's what we see. But obviously, this is way more taxing for Nicky than Elijah, and Elijah's in control getting the pass. Nicky's basically just defending here. So see there, manages to get free here, right? The shoulder's much higher than the leg. He's lost the head position that he had at the start, but he's got an opportunity to threaten a scoop pass, and it forces Nicky to basically push really hard on him at the end, and at the start forces him to pull really hard on that leg. So just very energy inefficient for Nicky essentially. This time we're going to start from like a traditional like cross hamstring position. Elijah's going to get a collar tie and he's going to post on the opposite shin, right? So he uses that post to start to lift his hips up a little bit. He switches to an arm weave position, all right? So once he gets the arm weave, he's able to knee cut himself away. Ideally, he could keep that collar tie on his partner, but the risk is high there and his partner's clearing the collar tie. So he threatens the arm bar. Basically, Elijah has to remove the collar tie a little bit. So Elijah basically goes arm weave, knee cuts away, tries to circle all the way around to north-south. And at this point, his partner starts to bring his legs back to the inside, right? But Elijah's already done a sprawl and he flicks his partner's legs away initially just so he can get, again, his right hand hugging the shin and his left hand shooting inside for a scoop grip on his partner's hips. And then once he's flattened out with his head in the center, it's very difficult for his partner to lift his hips off the floor. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so we're going to be here in like this sort of position, right? And Elijah's going to be holding the head, okay, just basically stopping his partner from off balancing him, right? When he crunches him up like this, it's more tiring on the arms for a second, right? But he's basically preventing any sort of like big tips or his partner getting any inside position because he's got his elbow crunching in there. So from here, he's going to knee cut his knee away. Okay, so this is a very standard pass. Ideally, he could keep this grip, right? And then just drive his head in, but his partner manages to clear the grip by threatening the arm lock. So he's going to circle around, right? And Elijah's just waiting for his partner to bring that knee back inside. Okay, this one here.
This one?
Yeah. Yeah, and as he does, he's just going to lift up and flick it away, right? So we're in this position for a split second. As that happens, Elijah's going to try and duck his shoulder behind the knee, and he goes for this scoop grip on his partner's thigh. Okay, so again, getting to this position with his head right in the center. And then something interesting I noticed on this particular one was Elijah bringing his left knee and driving it under his partner's head. So basically by lifting his partner's head off the floor, it makes it more difficult for him to bring his knees to his chest effectively, right, by lifting his head up. So he's able to settle in a position where like he can just like lift this one up and then settle in a knee, both knees on the floor rather than the usual where he's actually sprawling down, okay, because his partner's head is on the floor. This time he's got his knee wedged well under his partner's head. Okay, and then it becomes much more difficult for his partner to bring his knees in. So this next clip this next segment is just going to be on the leg pummeling. So Elijah uses like very good leg pummeling and hip switches basically to stop his partner from using their guard. Whenever he's like forced to enter the guard, he'll use leg pummeling very well to get side to side on his partner and either smash the knees together and clear, or just like use it to make them push him, or use it to get around the legs and go to north-south. So the first one we're going to look at is just like a straight pass that he uses. He gets a couple of these. So here, he's managed to smash his partner's knees together with a tight waist grip with his left hand. Okay, his partner's toes are stuck for a second, but the referee's going to sort that out. Thank you, ref. All right, and we're in this position. So Elijah's trying to smash the knees together. Partner's trying to basically open his knees up, but Elijah manages to get the knees crushed and he pushes his partner's shin to his butt. Straight away, he's going to pummel his left leg over to staple the leg, and then he pummels his right leg over, right? So his left leg is going to be free now, okay? Here, he wants to just step over the far side, right? Both of A. Solano's legs are pointing to A. Solano's left, and Elijah wants to pass to his own left, so which would be A. Solano's right. So here he's got the staple. He's going to push the knee with his right hand, his free hand, right, with good head position, keeping his partner flattened out. So he stuffs the knee, and then he looks to step his left knee over the top. So I imagine he's pretty confident that he'll get the left knee over the top. But when it comes to the right knee, he's got to do some like trickery basically, where he goes to initially just hop over, but as he does the hop, he does a leg pummel hit. Okay, and see, he manages to use his left knee to like shepherd the bottom player's knees to the opposite side as he pummels his right knee behind. So you'll see, like, by the time he basically jumps his right knee over, the bottom player's legs are again both pointing away from him. So that was like partly one of the things that he did very well, was just like leg pummeling and keeping his partner's legs pointing away from him. So we're here. Sprawling manages to push the knee, jumps over one. As he jumps over with his left leg, he's already pointing his hips backwards towards the legs, so he's able to walk his partner's legs back away from him, and then he manages to solidify the pass. I believe his partner turns away here, and he manages to get the back take. There's one hook, and there's the second hook, and that's the 3 points for the win. So this is the last clip we're going to look at. Hopefully we don't get demonetized. So Elijah's actually been taken down in this one, I believe. Been taken down to bottom position with a double leg. Now he's in bottom closed guard, and the person on top I don't know if he's stalling, but he's certainly waiting out the time, right? So he's got a body lock and he's in closed guard, which is essentially not very useful. So Elijah's got the double overhooks and he's trying to make some space with his legs. So see, here he uses a grapevine on the leg. He's trying to get the grapevines in. He extends one, he extends the second one. He uses one grapevine to get a stomp on the thigh and maintains the stomp long enough that he can get a butterfly hook on the opposite side, right here. Once he starts to sweep his partner, okay, he's still got the overhook on one side, so it's hard for his partner to bring his hand to the outside and prevent Elijah from stepping his knee over the arm and around towards the neck whilst maintaining the overhook on the other side, so his partner can't rip his elbow back to his body. Okay, and that's how Elijah manages to get the triangle here. Then there's a bit of adjusting, but essentially he finishes the triangle. So let's take a look at that. Closed guard, yeah, and Elijah can't get his legs in, right? So he's managed to get an overhook on both sides. Let's see, let me get the overhooks here, right? And he's trying to get his legs in for butterfly hooks, but he can't. So he starts to get the grapevine hooks in, right? So this is a tip if someone's stalling, get the grapevine hooks in. Okay, so he did a very good job of preventing the stalling, which is like definitely commendable, right? So he grapevines, he gets a foot on the thigh, he grapevines, okay? There's a bit of scrambling, but he gets the second hook to the inside. Okay, just like that. Let's turn a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So once we're here, right, Elijah's now going to manage to sweep him with the hook sweep and takes him over to mount, right? And because he's still got the double overhooks, he's able to step his knee around his partner's arm here, and then he's going to land basically in a mounted triangle. He does a good job lifting his partner's head and then switching his legs, okay, to start to attack the triangle. And eventually, after some adjusting, right, he moves his foot from calf height all the way up so that his knees are pointing in the same direction, his heel is all the way through, and then he's able to just squeeze and get the finish. Ultimately, if you want some takeaways from this, it was the combination of leg pummeling and circling to north-south, and then just like real good precision and aggression when he gets to north-south to prevent his partner from regarding. Yeah, combining that with like not letting his partner get any good grips on his legs, leg pummeling very well when he had to, and using like, I guess like a very good strategy from standing to get the double legs. Considering a lot of people are trying to use the collar ties, he'd set up like an overly strong collar tie for the double leg. So when people collar tie him way too hard, it kind of just pulls him into the double leg, and he actually used that to great effect, which is new and pretty unusual, I'd say, for the jiu-jitsu scene. Thanks, Charles.
That was really
I am so late.